Heads up northern Duval into Nassau County, northeastern portions of Baker County is where we would be tracking a possible tornado now with this circulation. And there we go, moving west-northwest. So heads up along Highway 301 in western Nassau County. It'll be into Nassau Village, a tiny little community, at about 10:58. Callahan at 11:02, give or take. And then it's crossing Highway 301 into eastern and northeastern portions of Baker County. If you're listening to us on 104.5 WOKV, we are simulcasting. Anybody going north on I-95 or south on I-95 through Nassau, northern Duval County needs to stay alert. Although it would appear, Garrett, that the circulation is west of Interstate 95 already.
Yeah, definitely. Can we zoom in just a little bit, see if we get some roads popped up on here on that northern edge here, maybe even a little bit
north of the airport here?
Yeah. If we get any roads popping up here.
It's just a highly rural area here.
Lanny Road, that's under with street level mapping here on First Alert Doppler HD. That'd be an area that you're under that tornado warning that perhaps that circulation is going over. We take the radar off. There's kind of like that Google Earth you're used to seeing on your phone. This is what it looks like. You see a lot of trees and a lot of rural areas, and here's some.
Paretta Road, or Parete, excuse me, Lanny Road, as you go to the west and to the northwest. Again, this is a highly rural area. There's Church Road comes into view, Green Meadows Lane, Highway 1, Highway 115. If you hear any of these highways, or Highway 1, if you hear any of them and you're familiar with them, or any of these markers or landmarks, then you know you could be potentially in the path of a tornado that is not confirmed but indicated by radar, moving quickly to the west-northwest at some 50 to 55 miles per hour. Pine Breeze Circle comes into view, Artesian Boulevard, Roy Booth Road, Old Kings Road again comes into view, Ratliff Road. These will all be potential areas.
Yeah, so let's go back and and time it out once again to see if we got an update from our First Alert Doppler HD to see the imagery, maybe even radar or storm winds. There it is, a little kink.
Heavy rain in Callahan right now.
Okay, heavy rains moving into Callahan. Let's put the winds on here. We might start to get a little better view of the circulation as it moves away from the radar site. What happens here is the antenna, and you can see it going around here, it's pointed up, as you go up into the atmosphere with the antenna, the more distance you have, the better view you get of the storm. If you're too close to the storm, you can literally overshoot it. If it's too far out, you can't get a good sampling because you're too high up. This will kind of get into that sweet spot here in the next few minutes as it races to the west-northwest. I would put that circulation probably somewhere very near the Duval, Nassau County line, and moving west-northwest, heads up in the Callahan area.
So I'm just going to back this up, Mike, so we can try to pinpoint exactly where the circulation is. I'm taking it back just a few frames, and so this is 10:49. So 10 minutes ago, looks like we have that circulation developing near US 17 and I-95 just south of the Nassau-Duval County line. I'm taking it forward into real time. It looks to me like the circulation has broadened out. It's not as tight. It doesn't mean there isn't a tornado or couldn't be a tornado. So tornado warning is still in effect. You got to take your tornado precautions. We were talking about some of those roads as well. But at least to me, Mike, it looks fairly weak.
Yeah, it looks weaker than it was.
Weaker than it was.
That's what we call this transient. When these move in quickly, they develop a circulation, a waterspout, and/or in this case, tornado. But they don't have a tendency with tropical systems to necessarily last particularly long. Having said that, this would appear to be the circulation near the east-southeast edge of this band of really heavy rain. So you guys, let's track that east-southeast edge toward the west-northwest, which means heads up in Callahan where it is pouring, the winds are blowing, and this potential circulation will be very near Callahan over the next few minutes as it moves into Nassau Village now, Callahan at 11:02. So just in 4 minutes, you'd want to be taking your tornado precautions. Lowest part of the building that you are in, do not get into an automobile and stay away from any windows. An interior hallway or bathroom offers you your best protection. Bethel Church neighborhood also at about 11:05, and then it's crossing Highway 301 as it gets to Callahan. This is the First Alert Skycam network at the International Airport. It was pouring here when we started the coverage of the tornado warning when it was issued. There is a low portion of the cloud here. It's kind of broad. We aren't seeing anything in particular here. The winds have actually calmed down a little bit, it looks like, at the International Airport since the band has moved through and moved across and pushed off to the west-northwest. Garrett's moving the camera. One of you guys are moving the camera a little bit. There's the tower of the International Airport right there. You can see kind of a slate sky there, gray, white, not a whole lot of definition to it. Not seeing a tornado at this point, which would be about where we're pointed right now with our First Alert Skycam network. So we are not seeing a tornado on the ground. It doesn't mean necessarily that there isn't one, because there's a lot of heavy rain with this. But it also appears on radar, as Corey pointed out, and Garrett and Trevor have mentioned. It does appear the circulation is weakening, though the band is still very intense and still could produce winds of 50 to 60 miles per hour, even if there is not a tornado on the ground. A tornado warning is in effect until 11:15. I suspect it's going to be discontinued earlier than that. It's going to be to the left edge of the warning here in about 5 to 6 minutes. So there's a pretty good chance that that's going to be, I would think, discontinued at this point, giving our radar presentation, Garrett.
Yeah, if we could switch to GR, or our storm analyst, First Alert Storm Analyst. So just a little better view here. Callahan, right. Ratliff here, and also we are tracking here the winds again on First Alert Doppler HD with our First Alert Storm Analyst. And again, the broadening out of the circulation here for you as it approaches Callahan, but it's raining very heavily. This is the classic rain we're seeing on First Alert Doppler HD right there for Callahan. There's Ratliff. So your neighborhood's there. We are seeing that here on First Alert Doppler HD. But again, Mike, as we look at it, there's nothing that just screams tornado at the moment here on First Alert Doppler HD.
Yeah, when the warning was issued, that circulation was evident. It was pretty obvious, and it is not now. And if there is a circulation, it's probably right in here, just about between 5 and 10 miles east-southeast of Callahan. So we still want a heads up in Callahan and realize that the tornado warning is technically still in effect. This is wind on the right again, rain on the left. So here's your wind, and where you see the brighter colors, and this is going to move near and just north of Ratliff, very close for Ratliff. And then Callahan, we want you to have a heads up here for the possibility of stronger winds at the very least, which have already been occurring with this band, and possibly a brief tornado. Would be relatively small in nature. Wouldn't be able to see it. Be a lot of rain too as this moves to the west and to the northwest at about 50 to 55 miles per hour. So let's go back to First Alert, 5-sweep First Alert Doppler HD. We'll track now the storm as it moves west-northwest. This is the one I want to track, both the back edge, which is where we have the possible tornado, and the front edge, which will have the high winds and the very heavy rain. So we go back to 5-sweep First Alert Doppler HD. And you'll be able to see, there it is, these heavy rain bands pinwheeling their way around the center of Nicole, which is now well off to our west and southwest. This red box, that's where the tornado warning is in effect. Let's stop that motion. It's going to make everybody ill as fast as these are moving. And then we'll track the back edge, which is the tornado, possible tornado, or at least the circulation, as it moves west-northwest, crossing the northwest beltway of I-295 into Lanny Road Baptist Church neighborhood at about 11:03, Nassau Village at 11:04, and there's Callahan again popping up at 11:06, which has been pretty consistent. So that's the portion of the storm that may be the most dangerous. The leading edge has very heavy rain and strong winds too, though, of 50 to 60 miles per hour potentially. So let's track the leading edge of that real heavy rain. I think a little more north of west. There you go. And that means that the real strong winds and heavy rain will move into Kent, a little tiny town at 11:03, and beautiful St. George near the Florida-Georgia border at about 11:07 with some very heavy rain, blinding rain, and strong winds as well. Let's widen the view out now. So a tornado warning, northern Duval, southern and southwestern Nassau County. But you can see once we get south of there, and all these little dots that are popping up, by the way, those are storm reports, usually related to wind. In some cases, it's water levels from storm surge. But once you get south of this storm that has triggered the tornado warning, there's not a whole lot to see here. There are showers and there's gusty winds, but the tornado threat is far less. And that's why the tornado watch has actually been canceled for Clay, St. Johns, and Putnam County, but remains in effect for Duval and Nassau County. And there still will be the potential for severe weather, but it's shifting north of I-10, and then it'll be into southeastern Georgia. So we're still seeing some bands of fairly heavy rain moving through northeast Florida.
Tornado warning continues.
Okay, we have an update. Go ahead, Corey.
Tornado warning continues until 11:15. At 11:03, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located over Nassau Village, or over Callahan moving west is 65. The National Weather Service pegging this as 65 miles per hour. That is very fast. That's about the speed of a car driving down the highway. So these are moving very quickly. You see that with the motion on First Alert Doppler HD as these are just blazing on by. Now most of the heavy rain is west of Highway 301. We were tracking it into Highway 301 just about 5 to 10 minutes ago, and now it is almost clear. So Trevor's here with me. We've got Mike over in the First Alert Weather Center as well, and Garrett. We have not seen anything that just screams at us tornado or potential tornado right now. We still have the tornado warning in effect, though. We are carefully watching that. Let's actually go back to the First Alert Skycam network. Trevor has been moving this around.
Yeah, we've been looking at this, and one thing I really want to drive home is that there's a lot of heavy rain. So these things might be rain wrapped, so you're not going to be able to see it as easily as you would somewhere else. So just don't go outside and be tempted to look for it. You need to be in that safe place until this warning is expired.
And look at the top left hand of the screen. That shows you just how fast the clouds are moving with this. This is tropical air that is moving over us. Mike was just talking about this a couple of minutes ago. And in the distance, that's where the heavy rain is. If there's a tornado, it can be really hard to see it in setups like this. So, Callahan. Points to the west of Callahan, west of US 1 and Highway 301. You're still under a tornado warning for about the next 10 minutes. So you need to take your tornado precautions. Don't go outside. Stay inside. Put as many walls in between you and the outside of your house or whatever building you are in to stay safe from the storm as it is moving on by, and it is moving very quickly, Mike.
Yeah, so the National Weather Service is going to, at least it sounds like, keep this in effect till probably close to expiration at 11:15. They've shaved off the eastern edge of it, which is to be expected. And the back edge still does have a little bit of a tail on it, if you will. There appears to be a little bit of a hook trying to form there near Highway 1 and a little south of Hilliard, very near Callahan now, it would appear. And there's a little hint at a circulation now, which we didn't have just a few minutes ago. So moved right over Callahan, strong winds at the very least, a possible tornado. Let's track that using our cone as it moves to the west-northwest, 50 plus miles per hour. These are just screaming west-northwest bound. These are the winds. Yeah, wind speeds here, 53 miles per hour, moving into Callahan. That'll down some trees and power lines even without a tornado. And then if we track this west-northwest bound all the way into southern Charlton County, we'll see where this is headed. River Road, Dixie Highway are all areas to watch and be alert and realize that there may be a tornado, certainly a burst of winds headed into Callahan now, as we mentioned. And then it's a highly rural area from there. But there are a number of subdivisions. Some of them are smaller, but it's become a sprawling area too, with a lot of construction and building in recent years. And so River Road, Dixie Highway, all the way to County Road 121 should be on the alert for a possible tornado. Certainly very heavy rain and winds likely in excess of 50 or 60 miles per hour. Zooming in a little bit, street level mapping. Here's Old Dixie Highway. Glory Road sits at the bottom there underneath the banner. Dial Road is at the top. There's Zidell Road, Quail Road, Benny Hill Road, Lance Road, Jones Cemetery Road. If any of these ring a bell to you, you live near these spots, these landmarks, these roads, these highways, you need to be alert for the possibility of a tornado right now as this moves west-northwest very, very quickly, and at the very least some very heavy rain. The southern edge of that tornado warning would be Baldwin Road. It looks like this stays north of Briceville. That'd be another larger community that would be likely close to the tornado warning, but the cell and the storm possibly producing the tornado stays north of Briceville, concentrating on the Callahan area, and then really a highly rural area from there west all the way to the Charlton border here, Florida-Georgia border, Charlton County line, which is then Georgia. So let's track using the cone from Callahan west-northwest, and let's go ahead and take it into Charlton County, even though that's beyond the tornado warning that is officially in effect, Corey. That'll move to the west-northwest. This is Charlton County right in here. This is Nassau County. And so Corey has taken that circulation west-northwest all the way into Charlton County now, and that does bring Toledo into view at about 11:20. Looks like it moves very near, a little north of St. George probably now, the way it looks at this point. Nice little community there on the Florida-Georgia border as well. As we widen the view, I want to take us then into southeast Georgia. because that's the area that'll be, quote unquote, under the gun now over the next hour or two. And by that I mean some of these strong bands that are coming in off the Atlantic will be moving into southeast Georgia too. So Folkestone, Kingsland, St. Mary's, Brunswick, St. Simon's Island, Jekyll Island, to Waynesville, Nahunta, to Blackshear, Waycross, Dixie Union. We want you all to be on the alert as these bands move across your area. They'll produce strong winds, the heavy rain, and the possibility for a brief isolated tornado. This is where we'll concentrate here for the next hour or two, Nassau County and north, for the possibility of severe weather. What if you live south of there? Well, you'll still get some rain bands. That includes Metro Jacksonville, Baker County, Columbia County, west to Lake City on I-10, south through Bradford and Union County, southwest on Highway 301, south on Highway 17 takes you to Green Cove Springs and Palatka, south on I-95, obviously a major artery, goes through St. Johns County into Flagler County. Yeah, it's windy. You'll get some showers every once in a while. But that's about it. I'm not concerned really so much about severe storms that would produce tornadoes at this point south of I-10. That is primarily north of I-10. Let's put on here the 5 type, Corey, because it gives us a better view of all the radars. There you go. See how that kind of it exaggerates it a little bit, admittedly, but when we put it on this mode, it helps us see the broad picture really well, and that's what I wanted to show you was the center of Nicole now. It's north of Tampa, it's west of Daytona Beach, it's headed toward the Big Bend, and so we're starting to see that shift in the strongest bands shifting near and north of Interstate 10. And the winds are shifting too, out of the southeast first over northeastern Florida and our beaches, but then will become more southerly as Nicole gets more to the north and west. The center of Nicole, our winds will become more southerly, and that means the water that's been so deep in the St. Johns River from Putnam County all the way to downtown will continue to funnel into downtown with significant flooding, as we've seen with the reporters. We've got Emily Turner downtown. We've got a number of reporters on the coast reporting on the flooding and storm surge too, which now clearly is rivaling Ivan from 6 weeks ago. The river flooding is going to rival Irma back in 2017. We do now have a report apparently of a funnel cloud or a tornado, Garrett, on I-95 with this storm.
Yeah, just coming in, we have a report of a funnel cloud here crossing I-95. So this is before it would have gotten to north of the airport. There's the funnel cloud report coming in across I-95. No touchdown, but it was a report there of a funnel cloud with rapid low-level rotation, but no touchdown there. So we are seeing that. That's probably, maybe the Weather Service got that report and initiated this. So we are seeing that here now with at least a funnel cloud report out of this storm, Mike, as it continues moving off to the west here with the tornado warning in effect for another 3 minutes or so here with western Nassau County and also a sliver of northwestern Duval, but the circulation as well to the west now. And again, the heavy rain moving into Charlton County, Mike.
And I would think they're going to allow this tornado warning to expire. The cell has spread out. It's not near as tight as it was earlier. We're not seeing the wind indicating a circulation anymore, really. Sure, there is wind, but we're not seeing. Tornado warning expired. And there it is. Tornado warning expired. So tornado warning is no longer in effect. We can get rid of that banner. There it is. Nicely done, y'all, in the control room. So the tornado warning's expired. There are no warnings in effect now for the immediate area, but we do, of course, have tropical storm warnings, storm surge warnings, flash flood warnings, and flood warnings because we've got a lot of water out there. Some of it, a good deal of it, has fallen from the sky, but much of it is from the ocean at our beaches, the intracoastal, the St. Johns River. It's, of course, a mix of ocean and freshwater and brackish water, and the St. Johns River is going to become our focus this afternoon and tonight, and the flooding downtown, in addition to the next high tide cycle, the intracoastal and the beaches, which will be a little bit later this evening. We're reaching high tide right now downtown, Garrett.
Yeah, we got some storm reports. You see them on First Alert Doppler HD coming in from southeast Georgia as well now. Wanted to read those off. We do have the causeway to St. Simon's Island and Sea Island closed due to surge flooding, storm surge flooding here right now. And also Riverside Drive in Brunswick is flooded by storm surge. So we're getting some reports of the water rise in southeast Georgia now. So you're seeing some of that flooding here. Here's that storm report here on the causeway to the St. Simon's Island and Sea Island. And we're seeing that wind come in off the Atlantic for you and pushing that water. So we are seeing some surge flooding there now, and also getting a report down into Duval County from the emergency management. Inundation of 2 to 3 feet along Heckscher Drive near Blunt Island, and JSO is blocking traffic from proceeding along along Heckscher Drive right now. So one of these storm reports there is what we're tracking here right now. So seeing some of that water rise here in Duval County up into Fernandina Beach. We're seeing the water on Front Street on First Alert Skycam network there, and also into Glenn County, Mike.
We're going to do a quick look at some of the sky cams, you guys, what we're seeing out there right now. It gives us a really good view, and then we'll get to some of the reporters. We'll get back to the news desk and cover some of the issues that we're dealing with this storm. This is St. Augustine, First Alert Skycam Network. The water is gradually coming down. Now you can see the crosswalks. We couldn't see those earlier. There's even a little sun trying to peek out. It's breezy, but the wind's not as powerful as they were when the bands were moving through a little bit earlier today. High tide has passed. It will take a while for this water to recede and to get out, but it will this afternoon before the next high tide cycle this evening brings yet more water in it, but at least by then the winds will be out of the south. This is looking downtown. This is our South Bank First Alert Skycam Network. This is the Main Street Bridge, and look at that water. Goodness gracious. Awfully high there. Now, high tide is right now within the next 2 minutes at this location will be high tide. So it will not cross the Main Street Bridge here, the water. It wouldn't appear in this particular high tide cycle. In fact, there goes a vehicle there. Remember that during Irma, it did. You couldn't cross the Main Street Bridge. Now, that may happen with the next high tide cycle, which will be between 11 p.m. and midnight tonight. So if you live in a flood-prone area along the St. Johns River and in and around downtown Riverside, San Marco, and you experience flooding during Irma, you're likely to experience flooding again this time around. And the next high tide cycle, I think, will even be more significant for downtown. This is St. Augustine Beach, First Alert Skycam Network. Still tremendous wave action, double-digit breakers, more than 10 feet. Look at them break over the seawall, water spreading into the parking lot. And, of course, there are some people out there taking a look. This is the Jack's Beach Pier, and you're looking at the water here. Even though it's past high tide now, well past high tide, the water is making it all the way, running up all the way to the dunes here. I would assume, we don't have confirmation on it, I'm just guessing, that some of the dunes have been breached this morning with this strong east wind and so the tremendous wave action. It does look like the Jacksonville Beach Pier has fared pretty well, at least at this point. We also have a look at Fernandina Beach, First Alert Skycam Network, high tide here, and boy, you can see all the water here. Number of businesses here, of course, on the right side, the restaurant on the left, and this is the river flowing out of its banks now and filling the streets of Fernandina Beach. This too will come down here relatively shortly, gradually. And then you'll have another high tide cycle with flooding this evening in Fernandina Beach. I understand we have Robert. Where exactly is Robert? We're going to toss to him out in the field right now, and Robert's going to give us an update on his conditions and what he's seeing at the moment.
Yeah, Mike,